back to Raze Chaos.
And welcome back, everybody. My name is Raze Chaos, and we have made it. We have made it to the last video of the Cosmic Cards. This will be the fourth pack that he opens. And oddly enough, there have been no duplicates as of now. I do expect to get at least one. I mean, I'm a little surprised that I haven't. But there's still plenty. It's 180 cards. And I'm amazed that, I'm seriously amazed that I haven't gotten a duplicate yet. Pretty sure I'm going to get one here. I don't really see how I couldn't. There's still an opportunity to get one of the, bonus hologram cards in here. But at any rate, I'm going to shove through these guys, and then I will go back into the great battles, the hero heritage and villain heritage cards, to explain a little bit more about what those cards are about, because they're multiple cards showing off different characters, different events, and Raze will give you a little bit of background on some of those. But yeah, we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to put this jackass back away, and we're going to dig into these. And yeah, saved a Wonder Woman for the last. I guess that's kind of, yeah, let's make sure we do it. So open this guy up, and right off the bat, we do have another duplicate, and that would be Amazo. Yeah, this one we've already had. We've already had Amazo, so I'm gonna put this in a duplicate pile. And what did we get after that? I'm not even looking at this point because I want to get the surprise the same way. Well, not the same way you are, but very similar. And who do we have after that? Boom! Oh, we've got the modern age Mxyzptlk. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's another duplicate already. We've got like 2 duplicates out of this one. God, please don't tell me this, because I'm wondering if it's not the same as the Wonder Woman pack. No, it isn't. Is it? I don't think so. So, what do we got next? We're on card number 3. What do we got? I knew this was going to be the duplicate package. And we're going to go ahead and, boom, open this one up. Oh, we've got Action Comics number 1. So far, everything's been a duplicate at this point. And that's part of the reason why I saved these things for the last, because this video would be extremely short otherwise. So, boom, Action Comics number 1. There we go. And what is next? What is next? What is next? Whoopah! Ooh, Animal Man. He's still sitting right up here anyway. So, yeah, another duplicate. Oh, the problem with these is once you did run into the duplicates, it seemed like that's all you were going to get. Hopefully, we get at least 1 or 2 cards that are unique. Hopefully more than 2. But don't set your sights high on this one. So we are going to check out the next one. Which one is that? And boom! Oh, we did get a different one. We got Hogan. He is another of the member of the Sinister Six. He is another of that team. It's a Teen Titans team that had expanded when they became the New Titans in the 90s. And that's really cool. Let's just go ahead and check this out here. He first appeared in New Teen Titans number 14, December 1981. Oh, and he's stuck on you. A Haitian who has the combined science of computers with magic of tribal voodoo. Hogan has specially crafted computerized figurine. By stabbing it with his special electronic pins, he can simulate the traditional effects of voodoo doll, crippling his opponents by kneading them in his own special deadly way. Yeah, I always thought that this was a really cool way of tackling this. It was keeping him. He was not in the slightest mystic. He was not a magical character. He was scientific, and he had crafted these dolls to, you know, he made these dolls, and essentially he could pair them with somebody. You know, much like your Bluetooth device could be paired to a could be paired with a specific device to where you could be, it's connected to that one, and that's the only one it works with. I always thought this was a great idea, and honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't made a return, especially with the look. You might think this is magic, but it's actually science. I always think that when they do stuff like that, I think it's always a good curveball, I guess you'd say, especially in a universe full of magic users. If they can't understand why this character is able to do what he is because he's using technology, I think that's a great foil, and it's a great, you know, swerve to where you're not actually knowing what he's doing. The trivia question really here is kind of funny, where true or false, Hogan is related to Cyborg of the Titans. The answer is false. No, he's not. That was big anticlimactic there, but no, he's not. But still, he is a character that I think they could absolutely bring in and use in more of his own standing rather than being part of a team. So that's really cool, and that is a character that needs that DC needs to revisit. He was always basically second string. He never really appeared outside of the team. So yeah, that would be an opportunity for DC right there if they wanted to jump on that, to actually make a character that was pretty much just you know, fell by the wayside, which never really even gained enough momentum to become his own character outside of the group he was in. There's an opportunity there, DC, that you really should jump on, especially with that, you know, faking mystic with technology. I think that's a very, very solid approach to things when you do live in a world that has both advanced technology and advanced magic using. You know, it's always good to blur those lines, I would think. That's just me. Wouldn't do much versus Superman, but hey, you know what I mean. Whew, so we've got our first individual card, and who are we getting next? We have got, the Silver Age Blue Beetle. So that's great. I am actually glad of all the Hero Heritage cards to get. I'm glad I could get this one because I have the Golden Age. I've got the Golden Age Blue Beetle in here, and that'll be a fun thing to compare. But we will get back to that after we get through this deck, or this pack, whatever you want to call it. But who do we have next? Who's coming up next? Woohoo! We've got the Golden Age Green Lantern, which, oh my God, that's awesome. Another Hero Heritage, Alan Scott. We'll go ahead and put this in the Hero Heritage pile. That's going to be the bigger pile as far as the side quests, I guess you call them, because the Great Battles, I think we've only got 2 so far. But hey, there could be another one right here. And let's take a look and see. And no, we've got the Guardian. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, yet another new individual card. I'm just going to go ahead and read the back here, because either way, there's plenty to talk about here. The first appearance was the Superman Annual number 2 in 1988. Obviously this version, because this is based on a Golden Age character of the exact same name. But obviously they had to change a little bit to why this guy's different. Ask any Metropolitan, how long has the Guardian been protecting the city streets? Forever young and vital, he seems to have been around since World War II, but only a select few know that the man called Jim Harper is actually a clone of the original long-dead Guardian. A physical perfect specimen, the Guardian protects Metropolis with his fighting prowess and indestructible golden shield. And boom, that should give you a little bit of a clue as to what the Guardian was all about. The trivia question, what kid gang served as the original Guardian's sidekicks? That would be the Newsboy Legion. Yeah, I can get into more of that. The Guardian is a much, much older character. And when I say much older, I mean really old. I mean, if you see him, he is a dude. He carries a shield. That is not accidental in the slightest. I mentioned earlier about how when Jack Kirby had opted to stop creating for Marvel because he was pissed that he wasn't getting near as much credit. He wasn't getting his original art back. He just wasn't happy with the company in general. And when I say Jack Kirby, I am talking about the Kirby from Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, who they basically did create the majority of the Marvel universe, especially at the time. Most of the characters were created by this team. So he decided to come to DC and do some differences. Well, he also had Joe Simon. Joe Simon was another creator who had decided to go from from Marvel to DC, and Simon and Kirby had a very, very famous creation that used to run around that predated the majority of the Marvel universe, and that was Captain America. And so when they came to DC, what did they do? They created another character who basically fought with just a shield. While he didn't have the super soldier or anything, he was different in that respect. But obviously later on in 1988, they made a clone of Jim Harper to basically bring him back a little bit. There are old Guardian stories that he was out there at the time, but he was and pretty much is stuck being a knockoff of Captain America. Even down to his shield, which is meant to look like a police badge of the time. And his origin story had a really fun moment there that was absolutely Joe Simon and Jack Kirby sticking it to the creators, to their former publisher, where he basically breaks into a sports equipment store, and that's where he gets his tights, his trunks, and his gloves and helmet and everything. And he's looking at two shields in front of him because he decides he needs more protection than just the helmet. And you have the two shields. You have the golden Guardian shield that at the time it wasn't indestructible when he was originally in the 40s and everything. And then the other one was a triangular, familiar looking shield, which looked like Captain America's original shield. And in order to decide which one he was going to use, he basically grabbed both of the shields and then slammed them together. And the Captain America-like shield is the one that crumbled, and the one that looked like a police badge and matched the rest of his costume is the one that survived. And yeah, that was a statement to Marvel, hey, you guys kind of screwed us and we're not happy. And it's another one of those little inside bits that Raze just thrives on knowing because he loves that kind of stuff. But yeah, when they decided to bring the Guardian back, because, Captain America didn't go anywhere, why did the Guardian go somewhere? In this case, he is a clone. And they even cloned the Newsboy Legion, that was how the police officer of Jim Harper would get his inside scoop, because you had all these boys that stood on the street selling newspapers, and they were always just there, and they were kind of little watchdogs on the street, and they would hear about things and be able to report them to the Guardian. The way it would usually work was the Newsboy Legion would see something going wrong, and any member of that group, a bunch of kids, they would start communicating amongst each other, saying, hey, we've got some stuff going down. And essentially, they would actually try and keep it from Jim Harper, because they were just like, hey, we need to take care of this, and then we'll get the recognition for taking down this crime. But in actuality, Jim Harper would be able to decipher, or to discern what they were up to, and know to follow them closely. And then at the right moment, he would just pop in as Guardian and save the day. So, yeah, it's a bit of a twist on a Captain America-like being that's not very that was kind of blatant, and they changed just enough to keep Marvel at bay. So yeah, very important older character. That's one that I absolutely love. I need to put do it down here. And what do we got coming up here next? What do we got on the next docket here, I guess you'd say? Next up is, boom! Oh, we've got Captain Boomerang. I think I talked about Captain Boomerang in a previous video. I think it was one of the last pin video. Talked about Captain Boomerang, and here he is with this thing. I'll go ahead and read the back. He first appeared in The Flash 117 in 1960 as a boomerang salesman. The arrogant Aussie called Captain Boomerang was an abominable showman. Nice play on words. But he found his true calling by threatening the Flash with an amazing arsenal of trick boomerangs. Now a member of the Suicide Squad, Boomerang strays from the path of villainy, but he always comes back, and that is the truth. He always looked, even the Bronze Tiger was labeled as a hero in this group, but Captain Boomerang is still a villain, even though he basically stayed with the Suicide Squad for a very long time, and he was tricked several times. Who brought the boomerang to America? Okay, this is a little backstory, and this is the character that was basically Captain Boomerang's boss, and that is toy salesman W.W. Wiggins. So that's the guy who brought the boomerang into the United States to sell them as novelty toys, even though they were technically weapons in back in Australia. Not so much at the time, but like primitive weaponry. To be honest, having a weapon that would come back to you without technology was a really gimmicky kind of thing, and it seemed a lot more almost magical than it really turned out to be, because honestly, boomerangs are not necessarily considered weapons as they are sports at this point, but still, primitive minds had primitive ideas. But yeah, Captain Boomerang's actually become bigger as far as being just a loathsome villain in general, due to his association with the Suicide Squad, much more so than he has being a member of the Flash's Rogues Gallery. But yeah, he is definitely somebody that you hate and that you love to hate him. And it's at a different level of love to hate. Like, you really do hate him. And you don't want to see him, like, actually redeem himself in any way, which is kind of unique. But yeah, we are going to go into the next card. And what is the next card? Who do we got for the next card? We've got the Creeper. Oh my goodness! This is one of my favorite characters, the Creeper. Uh, First appeared in Showcase number 73 in 1968. By day, he's crusading reporter Jack Ryder. By night, he is the maniacal Creeper, a quirky crime fighter whose horrifying appearance and savage unpredictability spooks the guilty. Backed with extraordinary strength and stamina, the Creeper's fearsome presence and chilling laughter strike fear into the hearts of heroes and villains alike. And the trivia question goes back to his the 90s version of him, and it is, what's the name of Jack Ryder's TV show? And it's Jack Ryder's Hot Seat. This was basically your hero that appeared to be a villain. This is a Steve Ditko creation, the guy that created Spider-Man. He switches and he put on a persona of a madman, at least originally back in 1960s. But he had like this little device where he just hit it and switch instantaneously into his other character. Later on, when like after the Crisis on Infinite Earths revamps, the way they did it was that he was the journalist once again, and he actually infiltrates a crime boss's Halloween party, and he gets caught because he's like the only guy not really wearing a costume. He's recognized really fast, and they grab this strange little costume pieces and basically dress him up in that as they're drugging the crap out of him, and essentially throw him out to all these gangsters who basically beat him within an inch of his life. And yeah, mind you, this is the 80s revamp of the character. He's eventually found by a scientist that the gangsters are keeping prisoner because they want some of his technology. He decides to implant the technology in Jack Ryder, and essentially when he comes out, basically when he makes the transformation, he's automatically healed from whatever it is, but he's put back in that costume. And he's also under the influence of those drugs. And so he's really out there. He's really wild. And he puts on this maniacal laughter when he goes on there. And obviously with the green hair and the laughter, essentially compared him to the Joker, which he did have a run-in with the Joker. In the comics, they have like pushed it further and further, making it seem like the Creeper is its own persona, and Jack Ryder denies having anything to do with him, to both heroes and civilians alike. He was a great foil at the time, because like even way back then, like in the 70s, he had infiltrated the Secret Society of Supervillains, because he never cleared his name as far as the Creeper goes. Everybody thought he was a villain, even though he was actually working against crime. And of course, later on in the 80s, he was absolutely crazy. He was just kind of a loose cannon. And later on, and towards the 2000s, they kind of, or late 90s, early 2000s, they had kind of pushed it to where he is somehow possessed by this madness in some way. Yeah, he's definitely a character that's evolved, and he even made an appearance in the Batman animated series as kind of a lunatic that was also in love with Harley Quinn, and just basically went and harassed Harley Quinn, like said, hey, I'm better for you than the Joker, kind of thing. We're both lunatics. And I thought that was a fun way of doing it, but at the same time, like, it feels like they're getting further and further away from the actual, further and further away from the original idea, but I enjoy so much of what they have him do that I can't complain too much. So, the Creeper, he is another one that I absolutely love and really wish they'd make a Funko Pop of, honestly. Never give up hope, because they seem to pull out some pretty obscure characters. So, next up, who do we have? Now I'm going to be disappointed if I get a duplicate. We've got Sonar, who is a Green Lantern villain. I'll go ahead and read the card here. Originally appeared in Green Lantern 14, 1962. Biddo Walden, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Armed with a gun that turns simple sounds into pure pulse-pounding sonic blasts. It's a patriot from the infinitesimal Balkan country of Modora, despite the fact that his own homeland considers this rogue warrior an abject embarrassment. Sonar is convinced that he can restore Modora's honor by defeating Green Lantern in battle. Nevertheless, the Emerald Gladiator invariably turns Sonar's symphony of victory into defeat. Which is okay. The trivia question: what is larger, the country of Medora or Albuquerque, New Mexico? And the answer is Albuquerque by far. This was a common trope that they used way back in the 60s and early 70s, have a villain who was the leader of a small fictional European country that was some bit of royalty that used the technology that they had developed in that country to become a villain to either promote their small country or basically do crimes to help fund their country. It's really kind of silly. But Sonar is one of them. Originally had this little tuning fork gun that he would use. Later iterations of Sonar, which they've revamped him, made new versions where they put the technology inside of him and basically made it to where he could actually use these powers. But while he was a fearsome villain at one point because his sonic gun was pretty destructive, it was one of those things where as technology advanced, people were really kind of looking at his weapon going, would that really do that though? So yeah, he is one that's kind of fallen off. They have made updated versions of a legacy, I guess. It's because it's usually somebody else taking up his weaponry and building on it, which is always a great thing to do, is to build on when you've got somebody with a unique weapon of some kind, but it suddenly seems to be like somewhat pointless, to go ahead and enhance the technology to make it more dangerous for the future, and that absolutely makes more sense. And then last card up, this is what we got, and it is a great battle. Great Battles is Armageddon 2001, which honestly was quite disappointing when you read about it. And I think since we've got just the three cards going on here, the three Great Battles cards, and there is apparently there's three in each for each event. Raze is going to go ahead and tell you about each one, and he's going to do it in chronological order, which means we're going to do the Great Darkness Saga first, because that happened in 82. Millennium was 1988, and Armageddon was 91. So yeah, Great Darkness Saga. According to the card, which this is card B, battered and beaten by the servants of darkness, The mighty legionnaires are unable to prevent the dreadnought of darkness from thieving the magic of the sorcerer's world. Nevertheless, amidst the ashes of defeat, the superheroes make an unexpected discovery in the form of a mysterious infant who seems to age unexpectedly to adulthood before their very eyes. As the Legion ponders the infant's strange secret and plans its final strategy, so does the Dark Master, who streaks across the spaceways to take complete and total mental control over the 3 billion inhabitants of the planet Daxam, each of whom is more powerful than even Superboy. Together, they form the undefeatable army, superpowered militia, at the command of their Dark Master, Darkseid. This was really kind of Darkseid making his appearance in the Legion of the Superheroes, which is always like I believe like 1,000 years in the future. It's set that way, so even though time goes on, they are 1,000 years in the future. And I believe they are the ones that kind of brought in Daxamites into the DC universe, which they used later on in present time. And they are a world that was very xenophobic and didn't really want to have anything to do with anybody. But it was proven that they've gone back and forth on this. In some cases, Daxamites are slightly stronger than Superman. Like everything about them, they absorb a little bit more of the solar energy, so it raises their level a little bit higher than what Superman's or Kryptonian stuff would be. And then at times, it's slightly less. But instead of having kryptonite, the Daxamites' weakness was actually lead. So just living on Earth made it very, very difficult for them to survive. Because when you got something really powerful, you need something really simple to take them out. But this was Darkseid's introduction to the Legion of the Superheroes and taking on that group. So that's cool. That's exciting. And it happened way back then, because obviously when you've got Darkseid, who's basically a constant villain, like just because Superman isn't around anymore doesn't mean that Darkseid isn't, because he's a great evil way out in space, and he's eternal to a greater degree, being part of the New Gods. So it absolutely made sense to bring him into the future as far as a villain. And they did it in spectacular fashion when they did it with the Great Darkness Saga, which is one of the few Legion of the Superhero stories I've actually read, and partially because of the hint from these cards that it would be interesting. But yeah, that's the area of the DC universe that Raze really hasn't tapped into as much as he has everything else, because it always seemed like a side. You've got them over here, and they really don't have much to do with the rest, other than the fact that they were inspired. And Superboy used to go into the future as Superboy, so even if you got Death Superman in the future, there's a Superboy somewhere. You gotta love the paradox. And next up is the Millennium, and Raze mentioned a lot about this in the previous video. So this is card C. So it says, the cry goes out from the avenging androids. No man escapes the manhunters. Still, a triumphant team of heroes successfully assembles the chosen ones, who include amongst their number Green Lantern's former sidekick, Tom Kalmaku, and the Atom's arch enemy, the Floronic Man. Meanwhile, in an underground stronghold far beneath the earth, the remaining Manhunters are overrun and vanquished by the combined might of the Justice League and Green Lanterns and Infinity Inc., with the Guardians being android foes no longer a threat. The chosen ones are at last transformed into beings of great and wondrous powers and welcomed by Earth heroes as the new Guardians. So yeah, there's a little bit to unpack here. Infinity Inc., especially at the time in the 80s, they've used the name since to no great degree. But that was kind of like the 80s. They were the children of the Justice Society, since they had combined in the Crisis on Infinite Earths and had put the Justice Society way back in World War II. The Infinity Inc. were their offspring. They were characters like Skyman, Jade and Obsidian. These were Nuclon. These were the kids, and I mean, Skyman was actually Star Spangled Kid, all grown up. So it was kind of like they were like the Teen Titans of the Justice Society, and so that's why they are mentioned as far as this group. The chosen ones that were basically formed were basically made up to become the new Guardians, because essentially the Guardians and the Zamorans had like met up, which they are basically descend from the same they've evolved from the same place. So even though you got these little tiny blue guys on one corner, these little blue dwarves on one side, and then you've got these Amazonian Zamorans that were evolved into these superior women. They essentially decided that since they were going to reunite, they were basically going to fly off into the world. No more Guardians of the Universe anymore. They're going to run off with these women, and their purpose was that when they did come back, they were going to have a new, further evolved race of beings that would serve as Guardians of the Universe. Obviously, that didn't quite work out very well, but like for a while, you had the team of the New Guardians, which was really, really strange all the way around. Didn't really work out that well. Obviously, Guardians eventually came back, but during that time, you had like a small group of Green Lanterns that were just based on Earth, and yeah, there were no Guardians of the Universe anymore. And honestly, I don't believe that they really even came back until basically right before Parallax came and went ahead and destroyed them all. So yeah, the Green Lantern mythology, it gets kind of weird because for a while it was just like, oh, they don't have Guardians anymore. There's only a small group of Green Lanterns, except for the miscellaneous ones that were lost in space sometimes that they would crop up. And then, instead of continuing on with this whole, these beings are going to get together and create a new super being of some kind that's going to be the Guardians of the Universe. They just kind of came back. The Zamorans, of course, if you're familiar with Green Lanterns, they're the ones that came up with the Star Sapphire Corps. Yeah, there were actually three from that race, and it was the Guardians, the Zamorans, and then the Controllers, which the Controllers showed up more in the Legion of the Superheroes, which I kind of want to say that that's what they were going for, as far as like having the Guardians and the Zamorans like take off and create the new thing. I think the Controllers were what they were basically hinting at that were going to become. But in this case, they just had yet another race that had evolved from the same group of people. And they were also of the same mindset where, the Zamorans had the Star Sapphires, the Guardians of the Universe had the Green Lanterns, the Controllers had the Dark Stars. And heck, Donna Troy and Jon Stewart were both members of the Dark Stars at one point, but they were supposed to be yet another intergalactic peacekeeping group. But they tended to fight amongst each other because, you had the earlier version of Legion of the Superheroes with Legion. You had them being a police force in space, and then you had the Green Lanterns, and then you had the controllers, and you would think that they would find a way to coexist, but just like police in different jurisdictions, they tended to want to one up each other. So just start with Millennium, and it just launches into all these different things. That's how easy it is to get Raze started. And now we're going to go to Armageddon 2001. And this is card C of the series. Buffeted by the weird currents of the time stream, Matthew Ryder, now Wave Rider, arrives in the present day with the power to unveil at a touch a person's most probable future. Using this ability, he peers into the tomorrows of all Earth's champions, and then turns to Superman and the Justice League for help. Together, the world's greatest heroes succeed in changing the future, but as a result, they unwittingly unleash tomorrow's monarch into today's world. So that was the whole thing behind the Armageddon 2001. Wave Rider came back in time. He had the ability. He came from an oppressive society where Monarch ruled everything, but he was believed to be a superhero, a very prominent superhero from the 90s. So what he would do was he came back in time, and the entire crossover event was done through the annuals of every issue. So every issue, or every annual that every series got was a Wave Rider story where he would come and give a probable future. The messed up part about this is, even as they were doing it, they had established that every time Wave Rider touched somebody and saw their probable future, that would essentially eliminate that future from ever coming to pass, because the person who went down this road saw that future. And so they could obviously prevent what they didn't want, lean into what they did like about it. It would essentially eliminate that probability completely, which they had to do because they had several, we're talking about the 90s. There were 3 or 4 different series that were dedicated to Superman and Batman. So yes, every time he would do that, he would touch somebody, and he changed. The whole big mystery behind this was who was going to be that villain, and because it was going to be a major character from the 90s. It was one of the major characters of the time, and so they kept going back to Superman and Batman because they're the 2 most logical choices as far as if somebody's going to go bad and take over the world. It would be their 2 strongest. So you got a couple different potential futures for Superman and Batman in that series, or that storyline. The trouble that happened, that even before the internet, spoilers happened, and basically while everybody's trying to figure out who is going to be the big bad as far as whoever would evolve into Monarch, it had gotten out. There was a leak, and it was actually supposed to end up being Captain Atom. While they were working on this, it got back to them that everybody was pretty much thinking it was going to be Captain Atom the entire time. So, in a last bit, and I think that's part of the reason why they made it that touching them altered the future, so it wouldn't it would eliminate that possibility. It had messed up the timeline in such a way that, like, Wave Rider, the more he used his powers, the more he was altering everything. Because obviously if you alter one person's future, that's going to have a ripple effect on everybody else in existence. And so the more he did that, the more it was upsetting it. And that's why he was allowed to, that's why basically Monarch was able to come into existence. The idea was that he was basically going to reveal that it was Captain Atom was going to be that, but they couldn't do that because everybody knew everybody was guessing that. So it was just like, well, okay, that's going to take the fun out of it. So they actually went back and decided, no, it's Hawk of Hawk and Dove, and he will be the villain. And they were ending his series, the Hawk and Dove series anyway, so it was just boom, here we go. And the whole idea is that it was Hawk and Dove. It was Hawk and then Dawn Granger, the second Dove, and while they had been amping up their powers to try and make them more interesting, they altered it to where Hawk inadvertently kills Dawn in this case, which the original Dawn was killed, which was Hawk's brother, and basically they were leading it towards the female Dawn, female Dove and Hawk were going to eventually be the combination of the Lords of Chaos and the Lords of Order and create a new being. And inadvertently in this situation, he ends up killing her. And that's what's supposed to have led him down his pathway of evil. Yeah, it was confusing because it was put together at the last second. Not one of the best crossovers that they did. So that's it for the Green Land, or for the Great Battles. We're just going to go ahead and divide up these characters as far as okay, so the only two that I have that are multiple as far as being able to compare are Superman and Blue Beetle, and so I'm going to go ahead and talk more about the individual characters here, since I don't have the new ones to compare to. You've got the Golden Age Shazam, Shazam with one magic word, Orphan Bill and Billy Batson transformed by a magic thunderbolt into the super powerful adult, legendary Captain Marvel. Guided by his predecessors, ancient wizard Shazam, Billy uses magical powers wisely and well, never letting on to others that beneath his chest beat the pure and noble heart of a kind little boy. The quiz question is, what was the name of Billy Batson's girlfriend? And it is Sissy Summerly. Which I was kind of hoping that there would be some bits of the Legends crossover in the Great Battles, but we didn't get one of those, and that played a big part in the Legends was Sissy, and yeah, he didn't really change all that much throughout the years. I think they just really needed to have this is the Golden Age. This is from the Wiz comics, from the original group that had created Captain Marvel, and it was now DC's, so they basically, it was the old Fawcett stuff was what they were calling the Golden Age Shazam, or Captain Marvel, whatever you want to do. And then you've got the Silver Age Wonder Woman, who they are putting as first appeared in 105 in April 59. Stronger than Hercules, swifter than Mercury, wiser than Athena, more beautiful than Aphrodite. With these magical gifts bestowed upon her by the gods, Princess Diana of the Amazons won the right to accompany her loves, aviator Steve Trevor, to America and man's world. Not even Steve knew that his secretary, Diana Prince, was in reality the amazing Amazon who men called Wonder Woman. True or false? The Silver Age Wonder Woman could fly. False. She could glide on air currents. And that's one of the big differences. The Silver Age Wonder Woman is where you really got the invisible jet. A lot of what you saw on the TV series was the Silver Age Wonder Woman, what she did in the 70s. She was still on Paradise Island. She was still a secretary, secret identity type thing. And that's really kind of the way Wonder Woman worked. She'd slowly evolved into this, taking aspect from the Golden Age and trying to modernize them in the 70s. And it wasn't until 1985 with the Crisis on Infinite Earths that they revamped her again into more of what we know now. But a lot of the primary tropes that we think Wonder Woman came from the Silver Age Wonder Woman, which yeah, it's a lot of fun, honestly. Though the idea that the origin stayed the same, where Wonder Woman returns to man's world to 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 help save man's world, and that he lands on Paradise Island. Mind you, it's not Themyscira until the modern age. It is still Paradise Island, and yeah, the idea that he did that. And he comes back to man's world with Wonder Woman and everything. Suddenly he gets this great new secretary in the Air Force. How did she get there? I mean, honestly, they don't just hire secretaries. That's somebody who has worked up the Air Force chain of command. And it's like, doesn't make sense if she just showed up. But yeah, that's one of those things that they don't really even don't really go for. And then we go to the modern age Cheetah, which, first appeared in Wonder Woman number 9 in 1987. So, yeah, this is the pre thing. Still Barbara Ann Minerva. The reverberating echo of the Jones. Oh, I think I did read this on the other one. This is where the cheetah basically stopped being a human with cheetah-like abilities and became more of a were-cheetah, so to speak. Before that, she was, I think her name was even Priscilla. I think that's the Golden Age cheetah. And then Barbara Minerva became the villain that primarily was the one that gave Wonder Woman trouble during the 70s. And then they altered her to make her more cheetah-like in the modern era, like later on in 87. So that's the big difference here with the cheetahs. Like, she goes from being basically a greedy woman to becoming a more of a animalistic woman in the Silver Age, and then she's a full-on were-cheetah. And later on they made a male version of him, but we don't talk about him because he sucks. And then moving on, we've got the modern age Mxyzptlk, who he also appeared in 87, Superman number 11, and that is the after the Crisis. By now, Superman recognizes that sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. That means the magical imp Mxyzptlk has once more materialized in Metropolis. And inveterate gambler, Mxyzptlk also presents the Man of Steel with some goofy new stuff, such as saying his name backwards or painting his face blue. And offers to return home if Superman can trick him into performing. Unfortunately, he hasn't managed to stump Superman yet. What alias did Mxyzptlk first use on Earth? And that is Ben DeRoy. I want to say one of the bigger tropes in there, the Golden Age Mxyzptlk even had a different spelling to his name. And he had a much different look, which is the look that you can see if you watch the Superman animated series from way back when. They used that character design, but they had combined it with the Silver Age Mxyzptlk, where when Superman was able to get him to switch his name back, say his name backwards, he would go back to the fifth dimension for about 90 days. So you had this thing where it's like, every 90 days, Mxyzptlk show up and start doing his weird little crap. The modern version wasn't constrained by the 90-day thing. And it was one of those things where it was just like, well, let's just go ahead and essentially it's more of a humiliation thing, because he thinks he's better than everybody, and he's this nigh omnipotent being, he comes and he causes trouble. Usually it's for his own amusement, But he is easily Superman's most powerful villain because he does have reality manipulating powers. And they did do that. Part of the storyline of Emperor Joker, that whole storyline was the Joker tricking him into giving him 99% of his power. And that just, well, yeah, that opened up a bad situation. But essentially it was, at the very heart, while it basically was, anytime you use a Joker story, even though it was in the Superman books, if you're using the Joker, it's always going to go back to Batman because it always has to. And since he had manipulated Mxyzptlk, that essentially kept it being a Superman story. So it was a really weird, of course this is a Batman story, of course this is a Superman story. Batman doesn't even really show up until towards the end, but and he doesn't really do much because he essentially, I'm not even going to get that away. Try not to. Emperor Joker is definitely one of the best most enjoyable stories. But that's the evolution of Mxyzptlk. And then we go with the Green Lantern, which I've talked about the Green Lantern and the Corps quite a bit in this video even. So I won't get in too deep on this, but this is a Golden Age Green Lantern. First appeared in All-American Comics number 16, which is another one that Raze actually has the cover of. If you check out his playlist of comic book covers, he's got the cover of the first appearance of the original Green Lantern. The rending crash of collapsing bridge sent a train full of passengers plunging to their doom, but engineer Alan Scott, who was protected by the sorcerer's spell of a green glowing lamp, under the mystical command, the Scott formed a ring from its metal and used its emerald energy to defend Gotham, exposing the dark deeds of the unjust with the emerald light of the Green Lantern. Which is a good point. Green Lantern was originally from Gotham City, which gives you another hint as to his creator, which was Bill Finger, one of the main players as far as creating Batman. Against what substance was the Golden Age Green Lantern's ring powerless? And that would be wood, and that was because you needed something primitive in order to defeat this all-powerful ring. Okay, so now we are launching into the Superman bits. I got the Silver Age Superman. First appeared, they're calling it Superman number 76, May of 1952. Plummeting from the heavens in his alien starship, baby Kal-El was found by farmers Jonathan, Martha Kent, who adopted him and encouraged him to use his powers as Superboy, the Smallville sensation. As the adult Superman, he moved to a metropolis where he continued his tireless fight against crime with the help of his cousin Supergirl, adorned by countless millions. The Man of Tomorrow was known from Boston to Boswa as a champion of freedom. What was the name of the Silver Age Superman super dog? That would be Crypto, who is going to appear in the new movie that's coming out, and we're all very excited. The big difference between the Golden Age Superman and the Silver Age Superman is that the Golden Age Superman was very, very harsh. He was a reaction. He would leave villains in dangerous situations, not so much killing them, but not preventing their deaths. He would, if a group of bad guys were heading towards a cliff, Superman would go and save their captive in the car and basically let them go over the edge. He wasn't so much about saving things. The Silver Age Superman is really where he became the no-kill. That's where that really first started, because you had this all-powerful godlike character. He needed to have some rules for himself. And he had other flaws that were eventually fixed by the modern age Superman, which is essentially the Man of Steel number 186 is where he's supposed to have started. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. He soars above the skyscrapers of Metropolis in search of evil and injustice. Though the rays of Earth's yellow sun grant the Man of Steel a wide array of amazing super abilities, including invulnerability, flight, X-ray vision, immeasurable strength, speed. Superman's greatest power is his unwavering courage, a resolve that comes from fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. And who coined the name Superman? In this continuity, Lois Lane is the one that first calls him that. And one of the big differences they wanted to do when they went from the Silver Age Superman to the Golden Age, or the Modern Age Superman, was that Superman had Krypto. Superman had Supergirl. He had Superboy, which even though they were the same person, they would still team up sometimes due to like time warps or something. But you had all these Kryptonian villains coming down as well. So he was really becoming less and less of a unique character when you had this entire other group. He wasn't the sole survivor of Krypton, because look at everybody that keeps passing up. Another big thing with the with the Silver Age Superman, especially, which was kind of a holdover from the Golden Age, was that whenever Superman needed a power that nobody had ever seen before, they would just toss it in there, like ridiculous things like super ventriloquism, or the ability to do this or that, stuff that just anytime a writer wanted to give him a new power, they would do so. And jumping into the modern age, they had stripped him of the majority of the other Kryptonians in his throwing. They slowly introduced them back later on, which is becoming cluttered again, which now he's even got a kid. So it's like, how long are they going to do this? But also they wanted to give him a set powers, define those. No more creating that as you went along, which was a lot of times the case. So yeah, it was really a reining in of Superman, so to speak. And that's the big difference between the modern and the Silver Age Superman. Of course, that's changed again because the New 52 made it all different. And then finally we get to the one that I was really looking forward to. And that is the Blue Beetle. And I don't mind that I didn't get the Ted Cord, which would be the modern age Blue Beetle in this situation. That obviously didn't get that card. But the Golden Age Blue Beetle and the Silver Age Blue Beetle are really worth talking about here. And I will go ahead and read this card. He first appeared Mystery Men number 1 in 1939. Frustrated and hamstrung by the corruption running rampant throughout his own hometown, rookie policeman Dan Garrett chose to become the masked avenger and exact his own brand of vigilante vengeance. Clad in a special suit of bulletproof chainmail and granted super strength through the periodic dosages of experimental vitamin 2X, Garrett patrolled the crime-infested streets of the city as Blue Beetle, who invented vitamin X2, Dr. Franz. So yeah, that is actually the Golden Age Blue Beetle. This is the real Golden Age character from way back then, before it was even a DC character, before it was even a Carlton character, to be perfectly honest with you. And it was Dan Garrett, but very, very little to do with the earlier Blue Beetle that people have talked about. The Jaime Reyes has like this scarab from an alien scarab on him, and that came from this version, which I'm going to go ahead and go into it right here. Dr. Daniel Garrett is his name here. First appeared in Blue Beetle number 1 in 1964, not 1939. Kajada, those were the magical words, thanks to the Egyptian scarab gem, transformed archaeologist Dan Garrett into the Blue Beetle. As your Avenger, granted the sense-shattering powers of super strength, invulnerability, flight, and ability to fire spectacular energy bolts from his hands and eyes. Unstoppable Blue Beetle defended the world against a myriad of force menaces. His final foe delivering him to death's door. And Dan Garrett's friend Ted Cord inherited the Blue Beetle identity. What I find interesting on this is that aside from this one, he is archaeologist, scientist type thing. He's a police officer. The big difference that they have here is that Dan Garrett only had one T in his name. And that's what they did. Basically, this would be the Carlton character that is the predecessor of Ted Cord. And I don't mean to say that this is that like after Blue Beetle #1 there was a series of comics. No, there weren't. This Dan Garrett is pretty much primarily a flashback character. They basically altered when they were creating the character in Carlton Comics. They basically took this version and gave him like the blue scarab and everything to make this one. And so he barely resembled, they took about as much as they could, but basically ripped off the Golden Age character. They didn't buy it, they didn't do it, they just, God, this is the old one. No, it's not the same, because look, there's all kinds of differences here. So yeah, there really weren't any issues of Dan Garrett doing anything outside of flashbacks, because he basically first appeared with Ted Cord taking over. So I always found that as a very interesting parallel. Didn't know that in the 90s when I first got these. Always wondered about the Dan Garrett stuff, because I'd seen like old Blue Beetle comics, but they didn't seem to match up to this one. But no, this is a later creation, essentially to basically change into the Ted Cord version that they wanted, and of course they've used that Beetle to go ahead and move on to the next one. So yeah, that's my fun little tribute here as far as like who ripped off who here. This is more blatant than this is about as blatant as you get. They literally did rip off that character. But at any rate, this has been a long and it's been a long journey. We'll just put it that way. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed all of these. Raze is exhausted right now, but at the same time, this is the first day of C2E2, and guess where Raze is? Yes, when I said I was filming these videos all at the same time, this is actually why, is so Raze would have a video set up and ready for today, which means Raze is amongst the C2E2 Chicago people. Basically his own little Lazarus pit where Raze comes back to life. So you can look forward to more of that coming in the future. Subscribers have been growing and are getting closer and closer to that 500 mark, where Raze has been building a box for that giveaway, and yeah, you don't want to miss out on that, because Raze, yeah, it's Raze. You're gonna see a lot of stuff that you saw in previous videos that are like little reminders of those. You're gonna see like hints of places that Raze has been. Not gonna go into too terrible a whole heck of a lot more detail than that until closer, when he announces the contest, or however he's gonna decide who gets this prize package. But one thing that you do know is that yeah, Raze is random, and that's going to be reflected in this box. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will see you back again here very soon. As I mentioned before, things are kind of getting a little weird right now, so looking forward to seeing looking forward to have to go into the getting to C2E2 to clear my mind, and hopefully when I come back everything will be nice and beautiful and new, and we'll all be home again. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now, but never forget, though life is full of odd moments, you never know when you're going to be defined.